let's talk about the Florida Panthers, who are very good. Obviously, defending Stanley Cup champs. They were first in the Atlantic last year, second in Corsi for percentage, third in expected goals for percentage, and eighth in scoring chances for percentage at 5v5. They were killing it in the underlying stats. Their 5v5 save percentage was second in the league with 925. And their 5v5 shooting percentage was 25th at 8.89. So that shows there's probably going to be positive regression at 5v5. Like there's like crazy amounts actually, because they were producing so much and just weren't converting. The only guy that could convert at 5v5 consistently was Sam Reinhart. Everyone else was snake bit for most of the year. And then their power play was eighth in the league at 23.5% conversion. That's another that's another area where they could improve. Their underlying stats, they were second in Corsi for per 60 and expected goals for per 60 and scoring chances for per 60 on the power play in the league. So one of the best teams behind, I think, only Minnesota in terms of those underlying stats. And they had the 23rd ranked shooting percentage. So that also shows me that their power play could be even better as well. And that's with Sam Reinhart scoring at like a 35% clip or whatever it was on the power play. So, I mean, there's only room to improve for the Florida Panthers here. That being said, fatigue is probably going to be a factor. They have a really short off season, obviously making it to the Cup final, but also the Cup final ended way later than it normally does. Like it was right at the end of June, so they only really have 2 months to recover, two and a half months to recover from all the celebrating and just the grind of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So,
let's not forget that the year before they made it to the Cup final too. So there's a lot of kilometers on this team. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And we saw that with Tampa Bay after a while. Like you started to see the wear and tear on this team after going to the Cup final year after year. So we'll see if that affects Florida at all, but there is definitely some cause to be relatively excited about the guys that you're going to be holding in fantasy leagues. In terms of key departures, a couple major ones. Brandon Montour is the biggest one. Their power play quarterback is out the door. Vladimir Tarasenko, obviously we just talked about him, went to Detroit. Anthony Stolars went to Toronto to tandem with Joseph Woll. Oliver Ekman-Larsson also to the Leafs. And Kyle Okposo, I don't know, did he retire? Or is he just a UFA right now? I'm not sure.
I don't think he announced a retirement. I think he's just
I don't think so either.
For a PTO, yeah.
It feels like we might be getting to that point with him, but I'm not gonna write him off yet. Their key additions: Chris Driedger, they brought him back after a couple of years where he essentially didn't play in the NHL in Seattle. Nate Schmidt and Adam Boqvist are kind of rounding out the bottom pair on their D-core. I mean, it does kind of look like this team got a little bit worse. What do you think?
Yeah. I actually was a little upset that they lost Montour. I was a really big fan of Montour. I know he also pissed some people off last year, but his numbers under the hood were still pretty good. And everyone on Apples and Genos was like, be patient, it's coming. And he did have some good stretches of point production. I was hoping that he'd re-sign with the Panthers and we could see that positive regression, just like we saw with Reinhart last year. If you remember Reinhart in the 22-23 season, he was not finishing at all. And then last year, could he finish? He overperformed. So I was expecting a bit of that from Montour. But I agree. A bit of a step back.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, obviously their top forwards are all still there. They locked a lot of guys up, and with the hole that Brandon Montour left creates some opportunity for others, and we will get into that in a moment. But let's talk about the goaltenders. Sergei Bobrovsky still there. 58 starts last year with a 924 even strength save percentage. He was fantastic through the regular season and the playoffs. Another guy that I would be watching out for some fatigue. They did play Stolars a decent amount, and he performed extremely well, but obviously he's not there. But they do have Chris Driedger, who had only 2 starts in the NHL last year, had a 942 even strength save percentage in those 2 starts. Obviously, really small sample size, so hard to really glean a lot from that. But he did have some really solid success with Florida and kind of put him on the map a few years ago before he got picked by the Seattle Kraken in the expansion draft. And then Spencer Knight, he had a 905 save percentage with Charlotte last year. Didn't play any NHL games. He's struggled a little bit in the AHL. Spent some time in the player assistance program. Struggled in the NHL really in his last stint, so hard, but he's still there. Like, he's still a young goaltender, still a guy that could get some opportunity. So a guy that you should definitely keep on your radar. But this is still a situation where I think Bobrovsky is going to get the lion's share of starts. So what do you think about that, man?
No, I absolutely agree. Bobrovsky, I mean, look at all the work this guy did for you in that Stanley Cup run. I think Paul Maurice is gonna keep giving him the trust. You do make a good point about just load management. Like, Bobrovsky also has had tons of kilometers throughout his career, including postseason kilometers. He's getting up there in age, so giving Chris Driedger a few more starts than usual, that makes me interested as a 0G option.
All right. Schedule quirks for the Florida Panthers. Gugsy, walk us through them.
Let's do it. You got 14 back-to-backs. That's tied for 4th in the league. 27 off nights. That's tied for 19th. So for weeks 22 to 24th playoff schedule, 10 games, 5 off nights. And for weeks 23 to 25 playoff schedule, you got 9 games with also 5 off nights.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of middle of the pack in both situations. Actually, the weeks 23 to 25, that's actually a pretty bad schedule. Not a lot of games, a lot of off nights, but not a ton of games total. But hopefully, if you've got Florida Panthers, you've got a weeks 24 to 22 to 24 playoff schedule. That is, I mean, in most of the leagues that I play in, that's how it is, just to avoid the load management situations. But yeah, I mean, that's not the way all leagues work. So, all right, let's go into our power play projection. This is pretty cut and dry here outside of the defense position. So Barkov, Verhaeghe, Tkachuk, and Sam Reinhart I have as the 4 forwards. And I have Aaron Ekblad as the defenseman here. Now, Nate, infamously on the projections episode for the Florida Panthers, talked about Adam Boqvist being the guy to quarterback the power play, and he baked that into his projections. I don't see that being the case. I think there are some arguments that have been thrown out there, not necessarily by Nate, but by others, about how, well, why did Oliver Ekman-Larsson get the time last year when Brandon Montour was out? Well, the fact of the matter is Aaron Ekblad was also out at the same time that Montour was, so he wasn't given an opportunity there. I just think that this guy still has something left in the tank. He's just struggled so much with injuries. But he's still a really important part of this team, and I mean, I don't really have a ton of other reason to be excited about Aaron Ekblad other than I just feel like it was his spot before Montour came in. I don't know that Boqvist really moves the needle a ton, although he has had in limited power play time some decent underlying numbers, but. And maybe that's why they brought him in. Like, it is very possible that that's the case. Like, they think that he's going to be like a Montour light, but I still just see Aaron Ekblad being the guy here. Give me your thoughts, Gugsy. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no. What I like about Ekblad is he's always had a high ceiling, and he's before Montour took the spot away from him. I think it was maybe 3 seasons ago. He showed that he could perform as a power play
Yeah.
one D man. His Yahoo ADP I think was in the 120s. So with that ceiling, he has the potential to be your second defenseman. And the downside, of course, is his injuries as always. And you never know. Forsling's breathing down his neck. But at 122, I think the upside, the ceiling is too good to pass up. I'm taking him. He gives you bangs, he gives you shots, and he could give you good power play production once again now that Montour's out of town. So I like him.
All right, buddy. Why don't you walk us through my forward projections for the Florida Panthers?
All right, we got the big dog, Aleksander Barkov, projected at 33 goals, 62 assists, 95 points. Carter Verhaeghe, 41 goals, 37 assists at 18 points. Sam Reinhart, Samson, is coming in at 45 goals, 41 assists, 86 points. And Matty Tkachuk, 30. Is that 37? That's 37 goals.
37. Yeah, the sevens look like ones in this font. I gotta do something about that on the slide. Hey, I know. I also noticed you said 18 points for Carter Verhaeghe. I'm like, no, that's 78.
Yeah, let's get.
It does. They really do look like ones, though. It's throwing me off a lot.
I didn't even catch the 18 points. Yeah, Carter Verhaeghe at 18 points. You'll want him on your team, fellas. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. Sorry about that. 288
No, okay.
shots for Tkachuk, 122 hits, 33 power play points. That's beautiful. Sam Bennett, Bangers Beast, Apples and Genos loves Sam Bennett. He's going to give you 25 goals, 28 assists, 53 points with 182 hits. And Evan Rodriguez, Hot Rod. That's not 14. That's 14 goals. Yeah, okay. 30, 44 points. I was about to say 74 goals.
Can you imagine Evan Rodriguez, just his shooting percentage going from like a career 7% to like 25? Just crazy.
He chucks pucks.
Yeah. Yeah, he is a puck chucker for sure. Any of these outside of the 74 goals for Evan Rodriguez, any of these names popping out as surprises for you here?
Honestly, no. Like,
Yeah.
we know how good this team is. I'm expecting all of this. I guess Sam Bennett at 25 goals, but even that doesn't surprise me too much. Sam Bennett, I mean, this is what a former fourth overall. He has that pedigree. Especially if he's filling in for an injury, no problem. I think he could hit 25 goals, no problem.
Yeah, and I think just he's a guy that perennially gets hurt for like 20 games or so, it seems. So if he has a full healthy 82 game season, he shoots enough. He's not a high efficiency converter, but he shoots enough that I think he can and he plays enough minutes that he'll pretty easily get at least over the 20 goal mark. And then yeah, I mean, no real surprises here. Like you said, there's enough of a sample size for all of these guys, and like they're all pretty much playing in the same situation. This team is really easy to project. I guess that's really the big thing. I don't have any big swings on them other than on the defense. So walk us through my defenseman projections here.
Okay, you got Gustav Forsling for 12 goals, 13 assists, and 45 points. He's going to give you 109 blocks and 109 hits and 113 blocks. And then our boy Aaron Ekblad, 18 goals, 39 assists, 57 points, 240 shots, huge. I got to take it slow. 133 hits and 104 blocks. So not bad, not bad.
I mean, like, look at these. Okay, if you're watching the YouTube, look at the ones. Like, there's a lot of ones and sevens on this page. Look at the ones and the sevens. They look almost exactly the same. Like give the man a fucking break. All right. Like, this is. I made it challenging on him. Yeah. So the big surprise here is Aaron Ekblad. Obviously, I've got him kind of back to. I mean, relatively not really close to where his point production was before Montour started being the power play quarterback. It's not quite to that level, but I do have him producing pretty well and getting on that power play. So that's where my projections differ a little bit. I do think Blake also might have had Ekblad as the power play quarterback, but I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to look into that. Gustav Forsling, you mentioned to him potentially breathing down his neck. I wanted them to use him back when Ekblad and Montour were out. We talked all about how he was a huge sleeper. He was going to get this opportunity on the power play to start the year, and then they used OEL. So it's clear to me that Maurice doesn't really see him as a power play guy, but he does produce enough 5v5. And obviously plays a ton. Like last year was kind of his coming out party, right? Like everyone talked about Gustav Forsling being this defensive monster, guy that could defend Connor McDavid because he just was in the right place all the time. He could skate. But yeah, it just seemed like everyone is like, oh wow, Gustav Forsling, he's here. Like this is a guy that can actually do something. So, and that actually, you can see that in his Yahoo ADP because he's in the top 100. He's been drafted at 96th, which I don't think I'd be drafting him there, just because there's no power play opportunity, and I just think at that range you can still get some really solid power play quarterbacks, but
that's really surprising that he's getting drafted so high, considering Ekblad is what, like 30 spots of an ADP lower than him. That really doesn't make sense. I don't even think Daily Faceoff has Forsling as the power play one quarterback. So it's I mean again, like there's something to be said, especially on Yahoo, where I mean the mock drafts are kind of there's no filter for those guys. Like anyone can just get into them and just start a mock draft, and then a lot of people drop out. So I mean the numbers are not entirely accurate to what you're to the way that your drafts are going to the way things are going to happen in your drafts. But I do think that there is something to be said about someone that gets a ton of headlines and a ton of discussion in the playoffs going into the next season. I think in Yahoo leagues, they're probably going to get a bit of a bump because of that, and that's something that you definitely need to watch for, especially if you're with guys that aren't like necessarily listening to fantasy hockey podcasts like this, because they're gonna fall for that, right? They're gonna fall for the ADPs skyrocketing and being like, oh yeah, this guy was awesome in the playoffs, but like, was he awesome because his fantasy value was high, or was he awesome because he just played really well all around? You just reminded me of my past self, who would draft teams based on how many headlines they'd be in for the playoffs. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, of course. Like it's I mean, yeah. Anyways, it's natural, especially if you're not like obsessed the way that we are with this type of shit. So in terms of a punt, I'm punting Sam Reinhart just because he's going in the second round, both in Apples and Geno's leagues and Yahoo leagues. I don't think his production is going to fall off that much. I just think that I'm more comfortable taking some other guys in that range. He's the closest thing I'd have to a punt, but it's not significant. And then in terms of a sleeper, Aaron Ekblad, we talked enough about him though already. Top 3 targets, I've got Barkov. Barkov's ADP is actually pretty low too.
It's insane.
In Yahoo, he's going at 51. And so that's in the 5th round. And then in Apples and Geno's leagues, 37.7, which is in the 4th round. So both of those situations, I'm stoked to take Aleksander Barkov. So yeah, I'm shocked about that, frankly.
Me too.
And then obviously I have Aaron Ekblad here, and then Sam Bennett not being drafted in Yahoo leagues, which is shocking to me considering they're bangers cats. And then his Apples and Geno's ADP 203.8. So that's a guy that is definitely on my radar there, even though I don't think that his ceiling is necessarily incredibly high, but he brings enough peripheral value that I'm okay with having him on my team, at least at the bottom end. So are there any other names here that you are targeting?
No, on Barkov, it's absolutely insane how underrated he is in this regard. And I know everyone's like, we always say Barkov is the most underrated, but he literally is so underrated because last year he was also like going in the fifth round, which was nuts. This is a 90. He could get 100 points. I wouldn't be so
Yeah.
surprised if he does that. I don't know if it's his injury history that is scaring people or just because he's a pure C, but man, this guy is an absolute beauty, especially in face-off leagues. He's just pure value. I would have no problem taking him in the third. No problem at all.
Also had a huge hits bump last year, which is cool.
Oh yeah,
I talked about
yeah.
this with Blake when we were doing the when we were ranking centers and Barkov. I would not want him bearing down on me coming in for the hit because he is a big boy.
Oh
He
yeah.
seems like a very nice boy, but
Yeah.
he's a large man for sure.
Yeah. You see his Yahoo picture and it's like, oh, what a nice looking guy. I bet he loves his mother. But no, he can hit. He can hit.